Candy, I could do that.
Toda.
All hearts and minds clear. Abba Yahweh, I want to say Toda Rabbah for this day. Toda Rabbah for another Shabbat. I want to ask that you can open the hearts and the minds of the Mishpachah on this day so we can receive your word and it will never depart from us. Also want to ask that your Ruach Rakakodesh will never depart from us. I also want to ask that you can increase the faith of the Mishpachah. So when we read your word, we can understand every word that we read, and we will believe every word that we read. Also want to ask that you can watch over us so that no evil spirits will overtake us. I want to ask that you can watch over the children in every household. I also want to ask that you can increase our faith. Our faith is important. I know sometimes we may have doubt even when we read your word, but I want to ask that you can increase our faith so we can make it in the kingdom. In the name of Yahweh, amen, amen.
Man. Toda Rabbah for that strong prayer, don't.
Ain't Toda.
Mishpachah, I think y'all know my kind of leading style, teaching style. I'm not a more, so what I like to do is have a guided discussion. Just a kind of quick review, we just finished 2 Samuel, and we've been going from Torah, from Bereshit, from Genesis, all the way up to now we're in Kings. And we just finished 2 Samuel last Shabbat Eve. So we're going to go right into the Kings. Don't Kanakya, if you can give me a mic check, sir, we'll read. We're going to try and get to chapter 3. I'm going to try to get to chapter 3. I'm not sure if we're going to get there, but if we have time, we'll get into chapter 3. But I do want to do chapters 1 and 2 tonight. So Adon Kanakya, can you hear?
Shalom, can you hear me?
Khan, loud and clear. If you will begin with 1 Kings chapter 1 all the way through, Baba Kasha, please.
All right. 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 1. Now King David was old and stricken years, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heat. Wherefore his servants said unto him, Let there be sought for my master the king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king, and let her cherish him, and let her lie in your bosom, that my master the king may get heat. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coast of Israel, and found Abishag the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not. Then Adoniah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time, saying, Why hast thou done so? And he also was a very goodly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom. And he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar the priest, and they, following after Adoniah, helped him. But Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei, and Reah, and the mighty men which belonged to David, were not with Adoniah. And Adoniah slew sheep and oxen and fat cattle by the stone of Zoheleth, which is by En Rogel. and called all his brethren, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. But Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, and the mighty men, and Solomon his brother, he called not. Wherefore Nathan spake unto Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, saying, Have you not heard that Adoniah, the son of Haggith, doeth reign, and David our master knoweth it not? Now therefore come, let me, I pray you, give you counsel, that you may save your own life and the life of your son Solomon. Go and get you to the king David, and say unto him, This is not you, my master, O king, swearing to your handmaid, saying, Or surely Solomon your son shall reign after me. And why should he sit upon my throne? Why doeth then Adoniah reign? Behold, while you yet talkest there with the king, I will also come in after you, and confirm your words. And Bathsheba went in unto the king into the chamber. And the king was very, very old. And Abishag the Shunammite ministered unto the king. And Bathsheba bowed and did obeisance unto the king. And the king said, What wouldest thou? And she said unto him, My master, you swearest by Yah your Elohim unto your handmaid, saying, Assuredly, Solomon your son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. And now behold, Adoniah reigneth. And now my master the king, you know us it not. And he hath slain oxen and fat cattle and sheep in abundance. And he hath called all the sons of the king, and Abiathar the priest, and Joab the captain of the host. But Solomon your son have he not called. And you, my master, O king, the eyes of all Israel are upon you, and that you should tell them who should sit on the throne of my master the king after him. Otherwise it shall come to pass, when my master the king shall sleep with his fathers, that I, my son Solomon, shall be counted offenders. And lo, while she had talked with the king, Nathan the prophet also came in. And they told the king, saying, Behold, Nathan the prophet. And when he was come in before the king, he bowed himself before the king with his face to the ground. And Nathan said, My master, O king, has you said, Adoniah shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. For he is gone down this day, and have slain oxen and fat cattle, and sheep in abundance, and have called all the king's sons and captains of the host, and Abiathar the priest. And behold, they eat and drink before him, and say, Elohim save King Adoniah. But me, even me your servant, and Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and your servant Solomon, have he not called? Is this thing done by my master the king, and you have not showed it unto your servant, who should sit in the throne of my master the king after him? Then King David answered and said, Call me Bathsheba. And she came into the king's presence, and stood before the king. And the king sware and said, As Yah liveth, that hath redeemed my soul out of all distress, even as I swear unto you by Yah Elohim of Israel, saying, Assuredly Solomon your son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne in my stead. Even so will I certainly do this day. Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the earth, and did reverence to the king, and said, Let my master King David live forever. And King David said, Call me Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada. And they came before the king. The king also said unto them, Take with you the servants of your master, and call Solomon my son to ride upon my own mule, and bring him down to Gihon. And let Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anoint him there king over Israel, and blow you with the trumpet, and say, Elohim save King Solomon. Then you shall come up after him, that he may come and sit upon my throne. For he shall be king in my stead. For I have appointed him to be ruler over Israel and over Judah. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada answered the king and said, Aman, Elohim my master, the king say so too. As Yah have been with my master the king, even so he be with Solomon, and make his throne greater than the throne of my master King David. So Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada and the Kerethites and the Pelethites went down, and caused Solomon to ride upon King David's mule, and brought him to Gihon. And Zadok the priest took an horn of oil out of the tabernacle and anointed Solomon. And they blew the trumpet, and all the people said, Elohim save King Solomon. And all the people came up after him, and the people piped with pipes and rejoiced with great joy, so that the earth rent with the sound of them. And Adoniah and all the guests that were with him heard it as they had made an end of eating. And when Joab heard the sound of the trumpet, he said, Wherefore is this noise of the city being in an uproar? And while he yet spake, behold, Jonathan the son of Abiathar the priest came, and Adoniah said unto him, Come in, for you are a valiant man, and bring us good tidings. And Jonathan answered and said to Adoniah, Verily, our master King David have made Solomon king. And the king have sent with him Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and they have caused him to ride upon the king's mule. And Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet have anointed him king in Gihon. And they are come up from thence rejoicing, so that the city rang again. This is the noise that you have heard. And also Solomon sitteth on the throne of the kingdom. And moreover, the king's servants came to bless our master King David, saying, Eli make the name of Solomon better than your name, and make his throne greater than your throne. And the king bowed himself upon his bed. And also thus saith the king, Blessed be Elohim of Israel, which I have given one to sit on my throne this day, mine eyes even seeing it. And all the guests that were with Adoniah were afraid, and rose up, and went every man his way. And Adoniah feared because of Solomon, and arose and went, and caught hold on the horns of the altar. And it was told Solomon, saying, Behold, Adoniah feareth King Solomon, for lo, he hath caught hold on the horns of the altar, saying, Let King Solomon swear unto me today that he would not slay his servant with the sword. And Solomon said, If he will show himself a worthy man, there should not an hair of him fall to the earth. But if wickedness shall be found in him, he shall die. So King Solomon went, and they brought him down from the altar. And he came and bowed himself to King Solomon. And Solomon said unto him, Go to your house.
Toda Rabah. That's a lot of reading. Halal, Yah for the reading. Okay, so let's start the discussion, Mr. Paka. Verses 1 through 4, it talks about the female servant unto King David on his deathbed. You know, it says he was stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he couldn't get any heat. Right, so they found the damsel Abishag, the Shunammite. Right, and so I'm just going to give you Abishag in Hebrew is it's a compound, right? So you got Abi, my father, and then the shag is aimless, wanderer. So in Strong's, it has my father, the wanderer, but what it's talking about is wandering aimlessly. So she got that name, my father, you know, the wanderer, aimless. And it says she's a Shulamite, you know. The root to that is Shunem, and Shunem is in the land of Issachar. So she's an Israelite, or at least she lived with the Issacharites. She lived with in the land of Issachar. So what I want to discuss is, and the way I study is I want to know, why is this relevant? Why would and I say the Most High make sure that this stayed in our history? What can we glean from this? Why is this relevant to the chapter? You know, and I think it's very relevant that they pointed out that that King David didn't know her. So she wasn't a concubine, you know. And if you read through it, you know, it says that she considered that she cherished King David. she cherished King David. So she took that as an honor to serve King David in his last days, you know. What do y'all see here in these first 4 verses? And what do you think about the situation? Just raise your hand. Any of the elders or I don't see any I see Morey Dawood is on. So if the Morays and the elders would hold their thoughts, I'd like to hear from everybody else. Just raise your hand if you have a thought or a comment.
Where we at, Dome? Basically,
we're in 1 Kings chapter 1, and we just read through the whole chapter, and now we're going back through the guided discussion. And so the question on the floor was, what do you think about these first 4 chapters, the situation with Abishag being the servant to King David? So that's the question on the floor. What do you see? And like I said, I question, how is this relevant to the chapter? So that's really what I'm asking. What do you think is the relevance to this chapter that they sought out to bring him a fair maiden? And that means looks very good. She was very attractive, but they made sure to put that, King David never knew her. So she wasn't brought up to be a concubine. So that's where the discussion is right now, and then we'll move on after that. If I get no hands, then I'll just go ahead and open it up to the Moray and the elders. But I'd like to know what you think about this situation. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. This is just a discussion. This is an open discussion, just to see what you're thinking. Your thoughts could enhance somebody else's understanding. And Adon, Johanna, if you're in a position, help me monitor the hands. Baba Shah, please. All right, Shashamar, the floor is yours.
Oh yeah, I think they gave him a damsel to lie with, because of the heat. That's what it says. Because they didn't have heaters and things in that time period. So, a person is a good source of heat. And I think they gave him a fair one, which means beautiful. So he would be pleased, I guess, comforted, And I also think that he didn't know her because he was at the end of his life. And that would mean if he did, he would have to make her his wife and he wouldn't be there anymore. So it really wouldn't make sense for him to take her as a wife and he's going to be gone, within a few days or months or whatever. So that's what I think. Are you?
Toda for the share. And I think you're right on the point too. That's what I see when verse 4 says King David didn't know her, never knew her. So I see the same thing you're seeing there. But if there are no more, I see Iman, Judy, the floor is yours.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
I just want to say that I think that David, they wanted him to be comfortable in his last days. Be comfortable in his last days, and that that they didn't want to bring nobody that wasn't nice looking or fair, or because this is his last days, and they wanted him to see him happy going out, and that was something they wanted to do. It wasn't for to marry her or anything like that. And then plus he was having I know when people get old, they get cold. They be cold a lot. So they wanted someone to keep him warm also.
God. Toda Iman. Toda for that share. And I think that's exactly what they wanted us to see here, at least right here in the beginning, that, you know, he is the king. He is the king, and he's on his last days, and they really want to make him comfortable. And you know, I mean, no disrespect to any woman, but you know, you wake up to a beautiful woman, you know, it lifts your spirits. That's the power really that women have, true, you know, you know, so I think they were trying to, like you said, make him comfortable. And believe it or not, that's not just a Hebrew custom to where a person would lie next to someone in that condition to try and raise their body heat. You know, with the body going cold, you know, you get the cramps and you know, your bones start to ache and stuff like that. So they were trying to keep him warm. I think, well, Maury Dawood, do you have any words for this? You know, it comes up later in the chapter, but for now, I just wanted to see where everybody was thinking about the situation. Floor is yours, Morey.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, Jacques. Hallelujah. Sorry for the background noise. I'm outside. But I had a question. So they look for a young woman to make the king warm, right? But my question is, Melech David had many wives. So would his wives not have been able to do that job?
God, good question. Good question. I was trying to I was trying to dance around that. I was trying to dance around that to see what people were seeing, but good for bringing that out. Told out for that question. We'll try and answer that. Iman, Audrey, I see the floor is yours. Unless Morey Dawood, you still got anything, or you just wanted to pose that question?
Well, I do, but first I want to see what the Mishpachah thinks about that, and then that's gonna bring me to my comment, if that's okay.
Khan, Toda. Iman, Audrey, the floor is yours.
Okay, I was changing the subject, so go ahead and address the question. I just wanted to add to something that Sister Judy had said.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go to Adon Germanus before I go back to Morey. So if I'll go ahead with Adon Germanus, and then we'll go back to Morey.
Okay, I'm not changing the subject. I just wanted to add something to what you said about the damsel that they chose.
Okay, go ahead, Ima.
Okay, I just wanted to say that even though they knew that there would be no relations between the two of them, they still chose someone that was pure and chaste to lie with the king. And in response to the other question was, perhaps because the damsel was younger than David's wives, I don't know. You know, most men love a beautiful young woman.
Toda for that. Germanus, the floor is yours. Adon.
Hey, Shalom Ray. Yeah, I pretty much had the same thought process that Elder Ima had, maybe because she was of a younger disposition, that you know, she was able to be more help to Dawid compared to the older sisters. You know, maybe that was the reason why they brought her in. That's her best guess of the situation. And yeah.
Khan, Toda for the share. Morey, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. So I'm not gonna hold y'all long. These are just my thoughts. So you have Melech David, King after the Most High's own heart. there being cold, right? So of course, yes, his wives could have done it, whether she was younger or older. Body heat is still body heat. Okay. However, something's very interesting about her, which is where she's from, right? So they looked all over the place. Her name means my my father was a wanderer. Same thing as Yaakov. But what where she's from means a double resting place.
Well, why would I come down here to pick you up?
To me, this is just me. This is a pure woman who's given Melech Dawid not only heat as far as his physical body, but also a place where he can confide in, right? So she is another woman of wisdom, just like Abigail. This is just my thought. So to me, her whole aura and everything about her was soothing to the king, in which he didn't have to know her physically in order for them to, I believe, be one spiritually. And I just yield there.
God, Toda for the share, more. Toda for bringing that out. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up they're trying to make sure King Dawid is comfortable. They're trying to make sure that he is comfortable in his last days. So they searched the whole coast and found Abishag, who was dedicated, who cherished. She took that job as an honor to make him comfortable, And King Dawid knew that. It wasn't there for any type of concubine. So I think that was kind of important to bring that out, how the people treat their king that they loved. They wanted to make sure he was comfortable. And like Morey Dawood just brought out, that they found this woman that is suitable to make him comfortable, beautiful, chaste, and like both Ima said, a pure woman, not just that she hasn't been with a woman, but her aura, her personality, like Morey Dawood brought out. Toda everybody for that share. Morey Samak, I see you came in, so do you want to add to that before I move on? He might not be in a position. All right, Adon Jamat. Go ahead.
Just one quick thing. I'm not going to really go all the way into your thought because I don't want to go away from where I know you're leading up to. So I do want to just go back to verse 4, just to read something for a moment. It said, the damsel was very fair and cherished the king. When you look the word up for cherished, it's going to be from the Hebrew H5532, which is sakan. And it says to be of use or service or profit or benefit, to be a steward. When you get into a little bit of the language, like, the ancient Hebrew, which we call Paleo, comes from the Phoenician. And there's other brother and sister or cousin languages such as Akkadian. In Akkadian, the word sakan is actually sakanu, which means to care for. So because of our thought process in this society, a lot of people will just look at it in a negative, and we have some brothers that kind of teach things from a wicked mannerism to misuse and abuse women. And that's not even what this was. The ancients didn't think that way. Just like we have today, and y'all kind of know it, I'm kind of speak somewhat as cold as I possibly can, but y'all kind of know what sometimes that I deal with in my personal. Sometimes just the care of a woman comes over different to a man when he's in his older age, because, we still don't know the total mindset of King Dawid when he was actually dying out. And, it's just a comforting appearance to have a female presence. And as you know, we have a field called nursing today. So when you look at the word Sakanu from the Akkadian and the other Eastern cultural languages and the Hebrew Sakan, it means to care for. So when it said he cherished, so it's more of, she was just like a caretaker. She was someone that was caring for him. And I don't want to jump ahead of where you go on the dome because, something else coming up, but I just kind of want to throw that in just for us to kind of go back to the language just a little bit and what's actually taking place. And that's why we're always saying it's so important that we try to return to the culture, and a part of the culture is the language and understanding the mindset of the ancients, because the way today men and women can't contain themselves, and we know King David had his issues, but it's not always a negative whenever a woman is utilized or to be an aid to a man. And as the question that Maury Dawood asked, he already had other wives. So I'm going to yield at that point. I just kind of wanted to highlight that word for character, which is a con, that she was an aid or a caretaker. And also where it comes from the Akkadian, which is a lot like the Hebrew language. So I yield, Adon.
Toda Maury. Toda for that insight. And the cultural that cherish. That's that, like you said, that's the important part of 1 through 4. How they wanted the best care for their king, and so and we'll move on. Adon Germanus, is that a new hand, or is that the old hand you had up?
Oh, well, no, I just wanted to say that when y'all was talking about the difference, I was thinking about how in the writings, how it talk about when somebody takes upon a wife, they have to worry about that wife, and the other way around. So I was thinking that her not knowing him and her just being an aid to him made it less burdensome than rather it being somebody that it was like one of Dawid's wives per se. That's something that I thought of. Other than that, that's all I had.
Con. Told out for that highlight. Okay, so we're going to move on now. The next verses 5 and 6, it gets kind of, well, we'll just go into it. So verse 5, then Adoniah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king, and be prepared. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen and 50 men to run before him. And his father, talking about King Dawood, had not displeased him at any time in saying, why hast thou done so? And he also was a very goodly man. That goodly right there means he was well put together. He was a good looking man. And his mother bare him after Absalom. So that's the birth rank. That's the birth rank they're talking about. He exalted himself, and it says that King Dawood didn't say anything like, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that." He didn't address Adoniah when he started exalting himself. I want to discuss that for a minute, and I want to start out with: do you think, or do you know from your studies that Adoniah knew that King Solomon that Solomon was supposed to be king, or do you think he just said, because of my birth rank, where I am in the birth rank, his other 3 brothers are dead now, so he's fourth in line, he's the next oldest. Do you think he just took that upon himself, that I'm the next oldest, I should be the king? Or did he know that Solomon was supposed to reign instead of him? What are your thoughts on that? And just as before, just raise your hand and be recognized and give your thoughts. If you can't raise your hand, if nobody's talking, you can go ahead and open your mic. Ima Audrey, floor is yours.
I just want to say that I don't think it had been, I don't think that King Dawood had openly announced or said that Solomon would be king. I'm not sure, but I think that he probably assumed because of his birthright that he would be next in line for the kingship.
Toda Ima, Toda for that share. I'm not sure who that is with the hand open. It's just a phone number. Floor is yours. If you
Shabbat
speak.
shalom. This is a Koki Misha.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the floor is yours, Akoti.
Okay. Okay. Like Imam, I'm not sure, but I think that it was a combination of the two, possibly. That he had an idea that Solomon would was to be next in line for the throne, but he felt that because of his birthright, his place in life, that he would be next. And I say that because farther down in the chapter, we see the exchange between, I think it was him and Solomon when he asked for the concubine. And so that's why I think that's a possibility. I yield.
God, Toda for that share. Anybody else got any comments on that? Okay, so let's keep this in mind that this is, so to speak, the royal family, right? This is the royal family. So the affairs of the royal family, to me, from the way I read it, it's kind of, well, we'll just move on from that. But from just think it's a royal family here. So Adonijah is in the royal family. You understand what I'm saying? So if his mother knew and his brother knew, to me, it's kind of hard that he didn't know. And then verse 6, it says that King David, let's just read it. And his father had not displeased him at any time in saying, why hast thou done so? And he also was a very goodly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom. So what do you get from that? So putting 5 and 6 together, what do you get from that? Verse 6 to me said, okay, go ahead, Ima.
I just wanted to say that David didn't say anything. We know that David, whatever his children always done, David never had a comment about it. Even with Absalom and different ones, when they do anything, David never said anything to disencourage them or encourage them. So I think that, like you said, the mother knew, the brothers knew, and David probably knew, but he just didn't say anything to his son.
Hallelujah. Toda, Ima. Toda. Any other comment?
Hey, yeah, shalom. Can y'all hear me? This is Benaiah.
Go ahead, Adon.
Yeah, I was just laying back and off of what the sister had said prior. Like he knew that the succession failed to him, but he knew that Solomon was chosen by the Most High to reign. Did anybody read 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 15?
We haven't gotten there yet. We just started 1 Kings tonight, so we're going to move through in succession.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to jump ahead because that kind of brings it all together. My bad.
God. Toda. Morey Dawood, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, shalom, Don. Toda again. I got another question. Who is it's not quite, you can answer to kind of make it go faster. Who is Solomon's mother?
That's open to the floor, right? Or you just
yeah. Well, you can answer it.
Bathsheba.
There you go.
Okay.
Shashamar got it.
So boom, Bathsheba, right? Out of all of David's wives, which one do we think that he had the strongest relationship with?
Good question. Good question. And if I can add to that, Moray, it might help if you understand how he became to be Bathsheba's husband.
Okay. So for those who don't know the story, I'll make it very quick. Bathsheba, just like a lot of our Israelite sisters, well, culturally, they would bathe on the roof, right? So she's cleaning herself on the roof. Melech Dawid, he sees her. He wants her, even though she is the woman of somebody else. I forgot Adon's name. Okay. Uriah, if I'm not mistaken. So he takes her, lays with her, gets her pregnant, and then conspires to kill her husband. And all of that occurs. And then once Uriah dies, then he takes Bathsheba as his wife. So boom. And then the baby that they were pregnant with, once it is born, I believe it's like 7 days that it's alive, and then it dies as a punishment for what Melech Dawid did. You can find that all in 2 Samuel. So all that occurs, Bathsheba, right? And then he consoles Bathsheba, and the next son that comes from Melech Dawid and the womb of Bathsheba is Shlomo. So I say all that. Well, Adon brought up a good point. It's definitely good to know how he became the Ish, or the husband. So now you have Melech Dawid with seemingly his favorite wife, Bathsheba, having a son named Shlomo, who the Most High also names. The Most High doesn't name any other child of Dawid but Shlomo, and he did not name him Shlomo. Just pop quiz question. Anybody know what Shlomo name is given by the Most High?
I think you might have to answer that, Moray.
I got you, though. Which is loved by Yah. So the Most High names Shlomo. And out of all of that, and I'll wrap it up here. So his favorite wife, the firstborn of his favorite wife, which sounds a lot like our forefather Yisrael, right, with his favorite wife, and the firstborn of his favorite wife being hated by the brothers. Sound familiar? Anyway, so I'll drop that there. I yield it though.
Toda for bringing that out. So I go back to the same question that, well, actually, we'll move on from that question, but still in the same subject. You know, if you think Melech Dawid knew what Abiyah was doing, do you think he reacted appropriately? I mean, after it was brought to his attention, or after he knew that what his other son was doing, do you think he acted appropriately? We done read the whole chapter, but starting at that point, do you think his reactions was appropriate? And all I hear is this rain coming down. All right, so let's move on from that. To me, in from what I'm reading, I believe that Abiyah was trying to take advantage of King David's health situation, and he was gonna take the throne because he felt like it was his, it deserved. His emotion was like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be next in line, so the king is not able to make these decisions. I'm gonna go ahead and assume the throne. That's the way I read it. So, Coty, the floor is yours.
Okay, I agree with you. I was just going to say the same thing, but I also, to add to what you were saying, I think his reaction may have been appropriate because, his health situation, like you mentioned, he's up in age. He may have said, I'm not going to devote the time and the energy to, getting upset about it. And he also knew that the Most High, the Most High already told him and let him know what was going to happen, how things were going to play out. So, as far as getting upset and overreacting, I don't think that I think that he used wisdom in not putting forth the effort to, get upset about it.
Khan, Toda for the share. But like Ema brought out, this seems to be a track record with King David and his sons, that it seems like he's very reluctant to really chastise his sons or either correct his sons. So I think it's important that we kind of recognize that too, that this is sort of like a pattern. If he knew, but like we've already read through this chapter, like we've read later on in the chapter, that when they started to come to him with the situation is when he took action. So moving on. Okay, so we've already talked about Adoniah, and nobody really adjust. Can you see where Adoniah's actions were? Let's say even if he didn't know that he wasn't supposed to be next in line, do you think he is kind of justified in the fact that in our culture that he should have been next in line? I'm not saying on the lines of righteousness, but just in the scheme of our culture, do you think he was justified in his actions?
Adon, can I say a few words real quick?
Come, Morey. If you're talking, Morey, we don't hear you.
Okay, Shlika. I don't have the hand raise feature. I'm doing it off my tablet. So I just kind of want to build on a couple of your questions that you've already asked. And as you know, I'm trying to stay quiet to give everybody an opportunity to share their points. So one of the questions that you were asking was, did you believe that Adoniah know his positioning of being a son? And so you did a great job of just edifying the lineage and the ranking order of a family, how it goes to the oldest son and how normally that's how things would go. But then about there being one that's selected or preferred to be in that seat. So did Adoniah definitely know or not was a part of your question. And also in the way that King David handled it, by him not actually bringing any hurt towards him, was his old age or why didn't he respond a certain way? So what I kind of want to go into, because I don't want to interrupt where you're going, because I know you're leading to your point, but I do just want to highlight or bring back to remembrance the text that we've already covered. just coming through the book of Shemuel or Samuel, about how, as Maury Dawood has already taken us back to, how King David came into possession of Bathsheba anyway by having Uriah put to death. Nathan the prophet prophesied to David about, well, first of all, he gave him an example or parable of a man that took someone's sheep, and David said that man should be put to death because the rich man shouldn't have taken a poor man's sheep to feed someone. And so then the prophet Nathan told David that, well, that man is you because you took another man's wife, and if you wanted more, the Most High could have given you all these things. He lost his son, so on and so forth, to bring all that back in. And so then we know that when Absalom, not even Absalom, before Absalom, because Absalom was provoked because of Amnon by taking his sister, and David didn't even respond to that properly. You know what I'm saying? According to my eyes, when you have one of your sons pretty much rape your daughter. But because Nathan the prophet had already prophesied to him the things that would befall his household, I still believe, just my own personal belief, is David had an issue with actually pronouncing judgment on his sons. Because even with Absalom, when Joab killed him, he told the men not to touch him. Don't hurt my son, even though his son was trying to kill him. I believe that because of his sin and because of what the prophet had already prophesied about what was going to happen to his house and what the curse pretty much that David brought upon his house for this thing, I think that when these things were unfolded in his life, in his family, with his sons, he's seeing his fault as being part of the cause of the repercussions which he's received. You get what I'm saying? So I feel that David's response was the way his response was to all his sons already before this particular son. He wasn't going to now be a respecter of persons to this particular son or be more harsh to him. And one son had raped his daughter. He didn't deal with him. His brother did. His brother became angry because he felt like his father didn't handle the situation. And then he had to go on a run out of the kingdom for a while and come back, and his father still wasn't speaking to him, but he never actually did any harm to Absalom, or nor wanted any harm to come to Absalom. So now we're getting here with Adoniah, by him usurping authority and placing himself. The king's response is no different than the king's response has always been to any of his children. We know that he would have let Absalom take his life. That's why Joab and them told him, we don't want you going out to battle, because they knew he would get out there and freeze up. He wouldn't even fight against his own son that was trying to take his life. So I just believe that because of, and it's kind of like what we talk about the priest has to acknowledge their sins and transgressions before making atonement for the people that we've been covering. I think David is showing us the mind that how some of us are so harsh towards what others do wrong, but he remembered what he did. And it's now haunting him, so he could never execute the proper judgment that a king is supposed to execute for certain atrocities that happens in his house because of what he did. That's just my own personal belief, according to the text, and me being a man, and we all men, and just understanding his love for his children as well. So I just kind of yield. I kind of want to add that, but I don't want to get ahead of where you're trying to lead the people to. So I yield total for that as I can.
Toda More. Yeah, you went right into it. So, you know, the point that, you know, that seed was planted. So now he just has to, you know, that plant is yielding fruit year after year after year. So I'll put it that way. So like you said, hey, you know, if I didn't execute judgment properly the first time to my own household, you know, so now it's kind of like that's carrying on. And I think, like you said, that's what kind of guides his decision when it comes to the affairs of his sons. Toda for bringing that out, More. Adon Jermaine, I see your hand, and then we'll move on after Jermaine.
All right, Toda, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm just going to answer your question about that's the son who took his place, and you know the topic we're talking about. I'm gonna put what I think on it. So I'm thinking of, you know, you are in this situation where you hearing, oh, you know, if your father's a king, the firstborn son should be next in line. If you hear that all your life, you're expecting it. So I mean, was he wrong for taking what is his because that's what he grew up knowing? No, I don't think so. Anyone would do that. If you are the firstborn son and you know, okay, this is my birthright, I'm getting this, and you're assuming that role when you come of age, so you kind of expect to be that role. But like I said, when the Most High said, well, I'll appoint this person, that's it, you get skipped per se. So I don't think that he was wrong in but taking what he thought was his because he's the firstborn. That's all I have.
Toda for the share, and I can see your point too. But remember, like I said, this is the royal family, and King Dawid was a man after the Most High's own heart. So if the Most High said no, Solomon is going to be the next one. It doesn't matter if you're the firstborn. Especially being in the royal family, there's they got to portray to the rest of the kingdom also. It ain't just on the king, it's how he runs his family, his household also. So knowing that, regardless of how Abiyah felt, there was order and discipline in that royal family, and he let his feelings. Remember when we was talking about feelings? He let his feelings. This is me speaking. This is how I read it. So he let his feelings govern his actions as part of that royal family. But then again, too, when we look at it too, that hey, I'm gonna try and slide in there anyway, and my father didn't do anything about it until people started murmuring. So we'll move on. Thanks for that share. So the next, 28 through 40 is King Dawid's correction. King Dawid's how can I put it? His approval, his decree to the whole kingdom that no, not Abiyah, but Shlomo is going to sit in my chair, and I want to make it emphatic in front of everybody with the priest anointing. With the priest anointing, there was the priest that got kicked out, but there was really no anointing for Abiyah. So King David is fixing it through 28 through 40. Now, what I really want to discuss is 49, if we can go there, starting at verse 49, and it says, after all of this, after the kingdom knows now that King Dawid has appointed King Solomon now, and he's anointed, he's sitting on the throne, and the trumpets and all of that in front of everybody knows now. And then 49, I think we need to discuss, and all the guests that were with Adonijah were afraid and rose up and went every man his way. And Adonijah feared because of Solomon, and rose and went and caught hold on the horns of the altar. And caught hold on the horns of the altar. And it was told Solomon, saying, behold, Adonijah feareth King Solomon. For lo, he hath caught hold on the horns of the altar, saying, let King Solomon swear unto me today that he will not slay his servant with the sword. And look at Solomon's reaction, 52. And Solomon said, if he will show himself a worthy man, there shall not a hair of him fall to the earth. But if wickedness shall be found in him, he shall die. So King Solomon sent, and they brought him down from the altar. And he came and bowed himself to King Solomon. And Solomon said unto him, go to thine house. I mean, rightly so, the people that was with Adonijah, whether they believe he should be the king or not, once the decree came from the king, King David, everybody was like, the ones that were with Adonijah feared. That's treason. That's a coup, So they feared it and left. And now Adonijah, the son in the royal family, he's got to deal with Solomon now. So what do you think about Solomon's reaction to his brother Adoniah? Floor is yours, Adon. Shashma.
So yeah, I think Solomon, he just wanted to make an example out of him. Because you're rising up to be a king. So I guess he just wanted to make an example, because he was parading himself around, thinking that he was going to be the next king. And he kind of had a lot of people, I guess, with him. So I guess he just wanted to get that straight before he was king. So everyone would show him respect, because who knows, he might try to instigate something with those people, even though he's the king. So he just wanted to get them straight before he took up the throne, which is I think is a wise thing to do.
Khan, thanks for that share. Toda. I think we'll see it a little bit more clearly in this next chapter. Adon Jermaine, floor is yours.
Yeah, shalom again. I think King Solomon answered that. He answered that well from my perspective. He answered that well. He basically gave him a second chance. He said, "If you are a worthy man, then you should live. But if you do evil, you should die." So he gave him a second chance, and that's a good thing to do. It's showing mercy, and because he could have went the other way and just said, "Look, you want to parade yourself as king," and often, but he didn't. He gave him a chance. Said, "Hey, look, if you're a worthy man, you should live. But if you're not, then you're gonna die." So I think he gave him a second chance of life. That's all I have.
Khan, Toda for the share. Toda for the share. And
I have a hand raise feature. Can I get a little bit of it?
Go ahead, Moray.
Okay. So now that you're all the way down to the end of it, I want to backtrack to ask another part of your question. I didn't want to get too far ahead, but since you're now down that far, so the question was asked, do we believe that Adoniah knew? As we read and just reading in the context, he did know. However, Joab, which was the captain of David's army, of course, you already know he knows what David is going to do. But Joab is a man of war, so he has a preference as to what type men that he wants in the seat. Because remember, before the kingdom came back to David to begin with, he was already sided with when the house was divided, he was sided with the other side of the house, with Saul's side of the house, before David actually got the whole kingdom back. So Joab, he was one that can actually control the host of the army. So he was giving counsel also to Adoniah, because you're the next in line, and there's certain mannerisms, things I believe that Joab looked for in people also. So he was trying to actually have him step up to what he felt his birthright, and to kind of like rule through him now that David is passing on. One of the things that we know, that if he didn't initially know right at the beginning, there was a conversation had with someone, and he knew that he was out of pocket, because when you see in verse 8, it says, but Zadok, the Kohanim, or the Kohan, or the priest, and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan, the prophet, and Shemi and Rei, and the mighty men which belonged to David were not with Adoniah. So that lets you know these people already know that he's out of order. So therefore, he has to know that he's out of order. So what he's doing is, I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of this thing, because who can stop me? You know what I'm saying? Part of it's kind of like, who can stop me? Can my little brother stop me? I got these people. I got Joab and the mighty men. These mighty men support me. But again, remember when Joab and Israel, when they was divided against David, when he was with Saul's house, and they was going to go up to fight David, when the counsel was given to them, hey, y'all remember who David is, and the men that's with him, they some beasts. You can't just run up on them any kind of way, because y'all might get the business. So now Adoniah now has Joab and his host, but still the mighty men of his father that really walks with David, they were not with it. So therefore, if he knows the priests and these mighty men are not with it, and the prophet is not with it, then the prophet, of course, already has let him know some things. His father's let him know some things. So he was just out of pocket. You know, that's my perspective going forward. Now to the point where you at in this closing portion before we go into the next chapter, I think what Solomon showed was he showed humility. He showed the capacity to make righteous judgment. And as we've been covering about being emotional minded versus mission minded, he kept the focus of his mission intact. He didn't just let the emotion of this wicked joker might come back later and try to kill me, but I'm going to, if I'm coming as reigning king, all kings are supposed to come in. We're supposed to know Torah. We're supposed to know how to govern the people. I'm going to gain, as the scripture said, I'm going to gain the love of the people by showing righteous judgment. If he comes and he repents, because all the stuff that he did, he made a grandstand. And so a lot of people, like we've been teaching in our repentance lesson 2 weeks ago, people think saying I'm sorry is just going to cut it. That ain't how it's written in Torah. If he grandstand, then coming before the king, is he going to humble himself? Is he going to repent for the stuff that he did? If he can show there's no evil and no evil intent still in him, then we're going to let him go to his house. But if so, as the appointed new king to be, then we're going to deal with him, because I also have to show the strength that my father was not showing to my brothers before me that did this wickedness. So I'm going to put the house back in order. So I'm going to yield at this point, just kind of bringing some of the story all back together as to how this family was operating. And I do think the King Shlomo did not allow his emotion to be like, oh, this man was going to try to take my position that the Most High pointed to me. He still allowed Torah, or the mercy and the grace of the Torah, to be how he made his decision at this particular time. And I now yield, Zakane. Toda for the floor.
Toda More. Toda for bringing all that out. And like you said, this was one of his first real acts as king. This was one of his first real acts. This is what's going to set kind of like I don't want to say a standard, but this is how the people are going to see how he is going to rule. So it was very important how he handled this situation with his brother, and like Morey Samak just brought out, it was a righteous act what he did, following the Torah. If he comes back, and shows repentance, not just with words, but if he comes back and shows repentance, then like according to Torah, then I forgive him, Before we move on to the next chapter, the floor is still open, and I apologize, Salika, because I see quite a few names on here, and I'm not sure who you are. So, Tony, if you have any words, sir, the floor is yours. If you're speaking, sir, we can't hear you. If you don't have any words, I'll just move on. Elder Yalabiahu, sir, you have any words before we move on to the next chapter?
Shalom, Ms. Picard. Thank you for the opportunity to add to the group, and all praises to the Most High for the beginning of the Shabbat. Just to share real brief, I was thinking today, and it had to be the Ruach HaKodesh gave it to me, because what he said was divine things have to go back into divine order. And I think as we continue to study our history, we're going to see that pattern. The word is given as a divine counsel. If it was Adam, Enoch, King David, even when we look at King David, how his choices, Mr. Mark was saying about emotional minded versus mission minded. We'll see that the divine thing person, King David, got out of the divine order by losing focus of his mission. The eventual thing was that he was, to say it lightly, penalized for what he did, so that the order, the divine order, will return to its set place. And from my perspective, that's what we're all fighting this daily battle for, because we are returning the divine thing, which is the name of Yahuwah, to the divine place, which is in us, which is in the renown of his name, in the greatness, in the grandness of his name. We are restoring that in the earth to its divine place, because he said, you know, we see in Revelations, and even John saw that he's going to be among the children of Israel and all nations. My focus is mostly to the children of Israel. So we have to grasp that opportunity to help ourselves understand that it's not just us individually, it's all of us collectively returning the divine thing, the name Yahuwah, back to its divine place in the children of Israel, in the 12 tribes, and in the earth, and in our heart. So that's, I think that's what the Ruach HaKodesh gave me today. I hope that is a benefit and a blessing to someone. And I yield. Thank you, brother.
Zaken, can I say a word real quick, if you don't mind? I know you were trying to figure out who someone's in the room, but I did just want to introduce real quick Adon Benaya. He's a Maury for Louisville, Kentucky, who invited me on for his call earlier. And that's why we came on just a little late. And so they came over to fellowship with us tonight. So that's who that is. He's from Louisville, Kentucky, with a Knesset out there. So if he has any words, you can let him have the floor.
Con. And that's any elder or moray that's on here that I just don't know who you are, Salakia, but anytime you want the floor, just raise your hand.
Kane Toda. Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm enjoying the contextual analysis and the reading between the lines of the underlying factors of the behavior of Dawid and Solomon, and just the whole dysfunction that the Most High cursed him with because of his actions, because of his covetousness and his selfishness. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I appreciate the welcome and the invite. And if I have anything to add that can help edify, I definitely will.
Toda, and welcome, Maury. All right, so we'll move on to chapter 2. Adon Kanakia, could you read that for me? And it'll probably be, we won't get into chapter 3 tonight, but this discussion is good. So don't hold that time in there. Let's get the discussion out, but we probably won't get to chapter 3 tonight, which I kind of anticipated anyway, if the discussion was good. So Adon Kanakia, if you would, sir, chapter 2.
1 Kings chapter 2. Now the days of Dawid drew nigh, that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be you strong, therefore, and show yourself a man, and keep the charge of Elohim, to walk in his ways and his statutes, and his commandments and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that you may prosper in all that you doest, and whithersoever you turn yourself, that Yah may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, if your children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there should not fail you, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. Moreover, you know us also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me, and what he did to the 2 captains of the host of Israel, unto Abner, the son of Ner, and unto Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war in peace. and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. Do therefore according to your wisdom, and let not his hoary head go down to the grave in peace. But show kindness unto the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, and let them be of those that eat at your table. For so they came to me when I fled because of Absalom your brother. And behold, you as with you Shimei, the son of Gerar, a Benjamite of Baharim, which cursed me with a grievous curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at Jordan. And I swear to him by Yah, saying, I will not put you to death with the sword. Now therefore hold him not guiltless, for you are a wise man, and knowest what you oughtest to do unto him. But his hoary head bring you down to the grave with blood. So Dawid slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of Dawid. And the days that Dawid reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years he reigned in Hebron, and 33 years he reigned in Jerusalem. Then sat Solomon upon the throne of Dawid his father, and his kingdom was established greatly. And Adoniah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, and she said, Comest you peaceably? And he said, Peaceably. He said, Moreover, I have somewhat to say unto you. And she said, Say on. And he said, You knowest that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel set their faces on me, and that I should reign. Howbeit the kingdom is turned about, and is become my brother's. For it was his from Yah. And now I ask one petition of you, deny me not. And she said unto him, Say on. And he said, Speak, I pray you, unto Solomon the king, for he would not say you nay, that he give me Abishag the Shunammite to wife. And Bathsheba said, Well, I will speak for you unto the king. Bathsheba therefore went to King Solomon to speak unto him for Adoniah. And the king rose up to meet her and bowed himself to her and sat down on his throne and caused the seat to be set for the king's mother. And she sat on his right hand. Then she said, I desire one small petition of you. I pray you say me not nay. And the king said unto her, Ask on, my mother, for I will not say you nay. And she said, Let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adoniah your brother to wife. And King Solomon answered and said unto his mother, And why doest you ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adoniah? Ask for him the kingdom also, for he is mine elder brother, even for him and for Abiathar the priest and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. Then King Solomon swore by Yah, saying, Elohim do so to me and more also, if Adoniah have not spoken this word against his own life. Now therefore as Yah liveth, which have established me and set me on the throne of Dawid my father, and who have made me an house as he promised, Adoniah shall be put to death this day. And King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him that he died. And unto Abiathar the priest said the king, Get you to Anathoth unto your own fields, for you are worthy of death. But I will not at this time put you to death, because you bearest the ark of Yah Elohim before Dawid my father, and because you have been afflicted in all wherein my father was afflicted. So Solomon thrust out Abiathar from being priest unto Yah, that he might fulfill the word of Yah, which he spake concerning the house of Eli and Shiloh. Then tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adoniah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled unto the tabernacle of Yah, and caught hold on the horns of the altar. And it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled into the tabernacle of Yah, and behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, Go fall upon him. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of Yah and said unto him, Thus saith the king, Come forth. And he said, Nay, but I will die here. And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, Thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king said unto him, Do as he hath said, and fall upon him, and bury him, that you mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. And Yah shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword, my father Dawid not knowing thereof, to wit, Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. Their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever. But upon Dawid, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne, there should be peace forever from Yah. So Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, went up and fell upon him, and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. And the king put Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, in his room over the host, and Zadok the priest, and the king put him in the room of Abiathar. And the king sent and called for Shimei, and said unto him, Build you an house in Jerusalem, and dwell there, and go not forth thence anywhither. For it shall be that on the day that you goest out and passeth over the brook Kidron, you shall know for certain that you shall surely die. Your blood shall be upon your own head. And Shimei said unto the king, The saying is good, as my master the king have said, so will your servant do. And Shimei dwelt in Jerusalem many days. And it came to pass at the end of 3 years that 2 of the servants of Shimei ran away to Achish, the son of Maacah, king of Gath. And they told Shimei, saying, Behold, your servants be in Gath. And Shimei arose and saddled his donkey and went to Gath to Achish to seek his servants. And Shimei went and brought his servants from Gath. And it was told Solomon that Shimei had gone from Jerusalem to Gath and was come again. And the king sent and called for Shimei and said unto him, Did I not make you to swear by Yah, and protested unto you, saying, Know for a certain that on the day that you go us out and walk us abroad anywhere, that you should surely die. And you said unto me, The word that I have heard is good. Why then have you not kept the oath of Yah and the commandment that I have charged you with? The king said moreover to Shimei, You know us all the wickedness which your heart is privy to, that you did this to Dawid my father. Therefore, Yah shall return your wickedness upon your own head. And King Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of Dawid shall be established before Yah forever. And the king commanded Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, which went out and fell upon him, that he died, and the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Toda Adon for the reading. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of the chapter, verses 1 through 4. Verses 1 through 4. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man, and keep the charge of Yahweh thy Elohim, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moshe, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. And verse 4, that Yah may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, If thy children heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. So I'll put out what I see here and then open it up for discussion in these first 4 verses. You know, this is King David passing the throne, passing the crown on, you know, and as king, you know, the kings were supposed to write Torah out, and they're supposed to read in that Torah daily so that they can walk in the ways of the Most High and keep all these things that King David is advising his son who's coming up behind him. So this is a passing of quote unquote the torch. This is the scepter going forward. But it's also it's the beginning of that royal dynasty that the Most High promised King David. you know, that his seed will sit on the throne forever, right? And so it's passing down from seed to seed to seed, and this is the first pass down in this dynasty.
Slicker, may I add something?
King.
Yeah, I just wanted to, pose a question. It seems like, he's passing on the monarchy, but is he also passing on issues that he didn't have the heart to take care of?
We're getting to that.
Okay, all right, I'm jumping ahead again.
We're getting to that. God, I just want to discuss this right here and see if and hear the discussion on what they see in this. Like I said, I'm not a moray, so I like to hold guided discussions, so that we all can glean from each other what each other's kind of getting from the script. And Toda Rabah that the mores are here now to edify us. But I just wanted to see if we can all kind of see the same things or share what we see, and that's why I said this is what I see, that he's passing on the kingdom. And we see this is the beginning of that dynasty that the Most High promised King David. So the floor was open in that discussion, and then we're going to move on about unfinished business. Morey, Dawood, if you will hold just a second, I'd like to hear from some of the younger. But if you need the floor now, the floor is yours. Okay, we'll move. I think I saw Shah Shamar's hand up before Adon Jermaine.
Okay, yeah, I have a response. I also have a question. So I can wait if I need to.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Adon.
Okay, yeah. I like how Daweed, how he gets his house in order before his death. And sometimes on TV shows, movies, or even in the real world, before a lot of people pass, especially a father or any male, one thing they do is, they write their will and they get all their finances in order and say, you talk about the cars, their 401k, this property. And Daweed, he did the best thing that he thought was valuable. And he talks about keeping the law of Moshe and basically following Yah and all his commandments and judgment, which is like the best thing to do. And another question that I had was, a question that I had where verse 4, where it talks about if he keeps his commandments, he won't fail. Then I was thinking, didn't Yah said that the sword would never leave his house? So then I was thinking, well, if Daweed does pass away, would that still, I guess that wouldn't be his house anymore, since he's passing it on. And that was my question. Are you?
And Toda for the comments, like the passing down, like the will part. And I can see that too. But I think this one right here is sort of like Moshe to Yasharallah in Deuteronomy, that, hey, look, you're about to be a very important piece to the Most High. So remember all these commandments, keep all these commandments, but also he's passing down that history, that history of the kings writing the law, statutes, and commandments and testimonies and reading in them every day too. And I'll come back to your question. Maybe one of these comments will answer your question, but I'll come back to the question. Just remind me. Jermaine, Adon, the floor is yours.
I just want to follow up with what I just said. Yeah, basically he's King David is like passing down his kingdom and say, hey, look, basically in more words or less, learn from my mistakes, follow the Most High. No matter what come up, follow what the Most High said. Follow His law, statutes, command, and you will never fail. Basically saying, I didn't follow Him to the fullest, and obviously my household failed. Since I'm passing on to you, that's the best thing I could give you. The best advice I could give you is just follow the Most High. It doesn't matter what, follow Him every commandment, and you should, everywhere you go, you should succeed, and don't depart from that. Basically, that's what the takeaways I got from it.
Khan, Toda for the share, Don. Toda for the share. One more from the floor, and then I'm gonna give it to Moray Dawood. Jemanis, the floor is yours.
Yeah, looking at this chapter, I can see why the other brother mentioned how everything is gonna get settled later on. But yeah, it's a pretty good chapter, and it just shows for me how the Father ultimately clears everything up at the end of the day, sooner or later. Because even with Dawid on his deathbed, he was able to tell his son, "Hey, you got this dude, that dude. This is what you do with them." Because obviously his son knew what was going on with them, because he was at that age to know what was going on. And he had already been through all that stuff while David was living. So he was like, "Hey, just do this guy, just that guy." And then later on, he did justice to all the other brothers, where he put death some and he gave some another chance. So at the end of the day, I see the Father working through him, and it reflects on how he does things even to this day. Like, he let them live to an old age, some of them. And like when he said, "Hey, you go outside the city," that's it. And he went outside the city and he said, "Hey, I told you not to go outside the city, so that's your fault." So at the end of the day, I just see this as a chapter of righteous judgment being enacted across the board. And, that's just the Father working. Like he said, if you do things right, then you're going to have peace. The throne ain't going to fail. So yeah, it's a really good chapter.
Toda, Don. Toda for bringing that out. And we're gonna touch a little bit more deeper on. Well, I won't say deeper. We're gonna touch a little bit more on those points you brought out later on in the chapter, and before we close. Moray Dawood, floor is yours.
Okay, Toda Queen. I want to read something real quick. Then a question and a comment. And he commanded him, saying, "Do you not know and understand? Yah is Elohim in heaven and earth, and there is no other beside him. He took me from my father, all the delights, who delivered me from the counsel of the wicked."
Slika, Moray, you're breaking up. We're hearing about every other word. Can you get to it? Is it just me or Mr. Pakai? Is it the same thing? Is he breaking up?
Yeah, I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
Moray Dawood, can you hear us?
I think he got dropped from the room.
Khan.
Well, I still see him on. I still see his name, but he might be logging back in.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah,
Khan, loud and clear.
Okay, hallelujah. So I'm gonna read it again. Whew. And he commanded him, saying, "Do you not know and understand? Yah is Elohim in heaven and in earth, and there is no other beside him. And it was he who took me from my father's house and from my birthplace, and gave me all the delights upon earth, who delivered me from the counsel of the wicked, for in him did I trust. Now therefore, my son, hearken to my voice, and keep the commandments of Yah your Elohim, which I commanded you. Do not turn from the right way, either to the right or to the left, in order that it may be well with you and your children after you forever. And remember the wonderful works of Yah and his kindness that he has shown toward us, and having delivered us from the hands of our enemies. And Yahuwah our Elohim caused them to fall into our hands. And now therefore keep all that I have commanded you, and turn not away from the commandments of your Elohim, and serve none beside him, in order that it may be well with you and your seed after you." If you had to guess, who was speaking and who was he speaking to?
That's to Mr. Pakai. So if you want to answer that, raise your hand. Give you a few.
Just
okay. All right.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So that is Abraham speaking to Yitzchak in the book of Yasher. But that sounds very familiar or very similar to what in the first 4 verses we read that King David is speaking to Shlomo. So the reason I bring that up is the first 4 verses, which is told Mayob that you kind of separated those two, Zaquay, because the first 4 verses really have nothing to do necessarily with the kingship. It's more about the aspect of father to son advice. So the first 4 verses are, this is the way that you should live as a man, right? I'm not going to be there in order to hold your hand anymore, but what I have instilled in you, keep that and move forward. So to all fathers and mothers, that is for us to do to the Yeladim now and when we get older. And then and I yield right there so you can proceed, Adon. Hallelujah.
Khan, Toda Moray for edifying that. Toda. And that's what trying to show that this is our culture. This is our culture. The Most High set it up that the father is supposed to pass this down to the sons and so on and so on and so on. So before anything else happens, this is King Dawid fulfilling that not only our culture, but command, right? Stay focused on the Most High first, and his and the culture that he gave us, the law, statutes, and commandments he gave us. Anybody else want to share? And then I'll try and answer Adon Shashamar's question.
I had a little bit to share, and I'm not going to go too far ahead of you as I can. I'm going to let you bring your points out. But I will just like to say that what Zakane Yelad said in reading the last chapter about what the Ruach had placed in him about things being restored into, its proper place, and, how the Most High, in this reading, we're seeing that things are being reestablished. I just want to say I see that all throughout this text. Okay, I'm not going to go into it because I know you're going there. But I want to go back to the first 4 verses also that Maury Dawood was just touching on. And in verse 4, it says that Yahuwah may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, if your children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, that all their heart and with all their nefesh of their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. And I'm kind of jumping into the question somewhat, into the question that Shashamar said, or part of his comment about, David like trying to prepare his son, leaving the will, so to speak, like this is how I want my house run in my absence. The only thing that I would say I differ at is, yes, it's now going to be Solomon's house, but it's still the house of David, just as it is still the house of Abraham. Because when we look at just from the cultural aspect, and this is part of what I'll be going into in the cultural study, most I will in the morning do our Hebrew and cultural study. I'll be going into a little portion of this, but I'll try to touch on it now. So the word Ab or father in Hebrew, it points to the actual father of a house, but it also points to the Most High as being the father. And a father is also a leader. So even the term grandfather is not even necessarily always used in scripture. The term Abba, which is father, is also the authority of a tribe or a clan. So it's also like a term that's utilized for authority, right? So now in the sense of it's no longer going to be David's house, it still is actually David's house because we're following the lineage. So when he said the scepter will not depart from, basically what he's saying, will not depart from David's house, because David is of the tribe of Yehuda, which is the tribe of kings. And he's saying, so through David's line is the line that we have to be watching, because here is the line in which the Mashiach is going to actually come through, or he's going to be part of house of David. And this promises came down from the Most High to Abraham. Abraham is the father of Israel, even though he wasn't an Israelite, he was the Hebrew. And so it keeps passing from house to house to house. And we see that Abraham's blessing skipped from it was upon Yitzhak. It went from Yitzhak to Yaakov or Yaquab, and he started calling him my son. So it's following the seed because this house continues. So in the Hebrew, from the pictorial, or even when you break down the word Abba, the most, so Aleph Bet, again, Aleph represents an ox or strength, and Bet represents a house. So the father is the strength of a house. And then when you look at the word for son, it's Bet Nun. So it's the house, and then the Nun represents what looks like, which looks like, what I have to use the term, looks like a man's productive seed. It actually looks like what we call a semen or a sperm is what it looks like. So the house continues. So the father is the strength of the house. He gives his son the directions of the house, which come from the directions of the Father in heaven, which tell every man on earth how a house is supposed to be run. So when Maury Dawood was focusing on, this is a father telling a son how to be a man and how to continue the house of Yah. So this is still house of David, because what a son does is he continues his father's house. His father establishes it and the son continues it. So it is passed down from the Most High to Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, David, so on and so forth. So the house still continues, but the house goes all the way back to the Most High Yah, which is the actual father, which this is establishing. And then he also comes through the lineage, which brings forth Mashiach. That's just a quick run of a lot that we'll be covering in the cultural portion and the language portion to kind of also understand the Hebrew mindset and the Hebrew thought process. And it was also respect. It wasn't that whenever a parent died, and well, sometimes it was, but normally, you know what I'm saying, from the ancient Hebrew perspective, there was high regard on what your elders said, what your father said. You know, we can see that with Yaakov when he said, I never knew a woman until I went and I got my wife. So all this whoremongering and many wives that brothers push, I'm not knocking the law on how you can have more than one wife. That's what one prefers. But just the mannerism of how brothers can't control their flesh and contain their flesh. When we see Joseph contain his flesh, but more so specifically, we seen Yaakov or Yaquab was a virgin until he took his first wife, meaning he wasn't with many women. And he said, because Abraham told me, which was his grandfather, not to be with these women in Canaan and to preserve and to keep myself until I find a wife of his people. So therefore, he honored the words of his grandfather and never knew a woman until he was married. So the ancient Hebrews, they actually respected the customs of their forefathers or their parents. So therefore, they continued the house. So they didn't look at, oh, it's mine, I can do what I want to do. It's still the house of my father, and I have to carry on my father's name, who is carrying on the name of Yah. I yield. Total for the floor, Adon. Total is okay.
Toda, Maury. Toda for bringing that out. And if I can, I'll just highlight this, but we're going to see it later on through the later chapters that David's house was always, his throne was always occupied by one of his sons, grandsons, and so on and so on. But when you look at Israel, when you look at the northern kingdom, that the throne didn't always pass down from father to son, and that's, I think, answering the question a little bit. That's how that house continued, David's house, and that's what I was trying to bring out about the dynasty. The northern kingdom, well, they had ones and twos, but the seed of David never left the throne in the southern kingdom. It was always one of King David's sons. Moving on. And we'll get to that question the elder asked, the Moray asked a little bit earlier about some unfinished business. So when we read verses 5 through 9, we see King David is, I don't want to say establishing priorities, but he's saying, hey, look, remember these things I have promised, so you're going to have to deal with them, and you're wise. And so you deal with them the way, the way you see fit, or in righteousness. These are things that you need to be aware of once you take this throne after I'm gone. These are things that are I don't want to say not finished, but things that are going to still need your attention, and you deal with them the way, in wisdom, the way you feel. And we can go into, all of these are, well, let's just go through it and see. Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah did, right? And so when we've just covered that in Second Samuel, that's in chapter 3. And you see in verse 6, he says, do not therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not the hoary head go down to the grave in peace. And that's just old age, gray hair. I've made a promise, and so kind of carried out. So when we see this all the way through, actually all the way through the rest of the chapter, we see King Solomon is handling the business as a king, and he's cleaning up his kingdom. Now, I don't know if I would call that, just me in this discussion, I don't know if I would call that cleaning up King David's mess, but it was attending to what King David had already sort of established, And when we go back and read some of those histories, these things these people did that need that judgment is definitely going to have to come to them. So the floor is open. What are your discussions? What are your thoughts? What are your inputs on, in particular right now, just 5 through 9? Do we need to read that again? We're getting close to closing time, so. Do you feel that this is unfinished business, sort of like, do you see it as King David passing on things that he couldn't do or was not willing to do, and now he's putting it on his son's shoulders? Or do you see it as King David saying, hey, this is still business that needs to be attended to? Floor is open.
I'm gonna let Adon Benaiah go first, since he already started that line of questioning. Then I'm gonna jump in behind him.
God.
I'll just say this: when we look at King David, Yah says he was a man after his own heart, and we know that the Most High is all about right ruling, justice, equity, and above all, love. Let's examine him and Joab's relationship. Were they close? Would anybody say that King David and Joab was close?
Okay.
Did Joab serve David?
Okay.
Joab kept a big secret of King David's, didn't he?
God.
Joab received that letter, that death letter for Uriah the Hittite. So I don't think David had the heart to kill Joab, and he passed this on to Solomon. And I yield.
God, Toda for bringing that out.
Yeah, I count on the lamb chop because Adon Yaakov, I know you was taking that safe route. You know what I'm saying? the route I used to take when you read certain things, like, nah, I thought I didn't do that. Like, I ain't really mean that.
God.
You taking the safe route, But we do know David did some things. And so I still think, for one, it's giving us a balance. It is showing us, like I said, when we're in fault, because now the fulfillment of Matthew chapter 7, the same judgment you judge is how you be judged, and the same mercy that you show is the mercy you'll be shown. I think David was fulfilling that also, because like Adon Benaiah just brought out, first of all, these people knew his mess. You know what I'm saying? He's done some mess. So as I was saying earlier, it was hard for him to put it in place. He put it in check, even though he knew some of it was supposed to happen, but he was walking more in the grace side or the mercy side because he's received mercy. Like, his life was spared. Remember when he was going to make that quick judgment to put a man to death for some sheep, and then Nathan told him, and that's you. Ever since then, David was quick to pronounce death sentence. He was slow to pronounce death sentence. He didn't have that quickness anymore because it humbled him. And I believe he was like, I know what I've done. So who am I to actually judge someone else when I've done what I've done? I have to give them the same opportunity that I've been given. You know what I'm saying? And the Most High would deal with them accordingly as he's dealt with me in my house. That's why my house is pretty much a mess. What I want to say about kind of proof of it is because when Amnon raped his daughter, he didn't handle that business. But whenever Absalom did, it said David was kind of happy that Absalom took care of that business too. You see what I'm saying? So I couldn't do it because of, oh man, Amnon really took after me. I didn't rape, but I took another man's wife and had him put to death by sending him to the front line with a death certificate in hand, purposely to cover my sin. You know what I'm saying? So now my son has issues in the flesh like I have issues in the flesh, and he raped his sister, my daughter, but I can't deal with it. So when Absalom took care of that business, David was relieved in his heart that he got judged according to Torah, which he could not do. So now fast forwarding to now this portion of it, you know, I do believe it's him handing down, not necessarily just handing his business over, but he's letting him know, like, look, you know, because going back to 4 again, he basically told him, continue in the ways of Yah, do the things of Yah, don't deviate from the things of Yah, and Yah will be with you, and you will always have a man on the throne of Israel through our lineage. But now, my son, don't make the same mistakes that I made. So then when he goes into saying, well, you know how Joab stood against me. Well, he didn't stand against me at one time, but he did stand against me at this time, and he did this, and that. He's now going down saying what everyone has done. So now some of the little dirty stuff that's behind the scenes, I'm letting my son know these are the things that was a thorn in my side, in my kingdom, because of what I done wrong. Do not put yourself in position to allow these things to go on that I could not handle, because I was walking in the mercy that was bestowed to me. And also they was carrying my secrets and they knew my faults. So, but now you are pure, Shlomo. You have none of this on your record. Run your kingdom right and in Yah. And so, and he started off righteous. If my brother don't show me any wickedness, he's all good. But what we have to do is we have to know what discernment looks like. And that's why sometimes people, as y'all know, I was talking about people calling people haters. No, sometimes we ain't haters. We can just discern, and we can still see that from your behavior, your words, and how you do things, you got that same wicked ruach on you. So when he said, look, I'm going to be good, brother, I mean you no harm. And when he sent him to his house, okay, he can live. But then he goes privately to his mother. That already, if you want to ask, go ask him. Can I have the Shulamite? But he go and ask his mother. And if you ask him, and then the way she did it and came to him, like for one that already rubbed Shlomo or Solomon wrong. And then he basically want to know, did Adonijah put you up to this? Wow, what you asking for the kingdom? Because do you not even understand what he's doing by asking this? So this is the behaviors of people that do not have your best interests at heart, the same way some of them turned on David in times past. So he just kind of gave him instructions on how not to make the same mistakes, and that some of the faults of my house is still lingering, which what I was saying, that I seen what Zaken Yeladia was saying, but the Most High's divine presence is now putting things back in order. So it wasn't really just, I'm handing you my problems, but there's so many words, my problems that's in the house that could cause problems to you, my son. Be righteous in the Most High. And if you see anything that has the appearance of, deal with it immediately and expediently. So I'm going to take the safe route a little bit like you too, Adon Yaquab. But yes, his issues carried over, and they had to be put all the way in order. And that's why there was peace with Solomon's kingdom for a long period of time until he now committed his own issue. So I'm going to give at that point to leave the floor for someone else.
Toda More. And we was getting ready to go right into that next with Adonijah and what he did. But before I move on forward to that, and like you said, More, that there's judgment that had to be handed out. That judgment just didn't disappear, and so like you said, because he didn't feel King David, that is, hey, I got skeletons in my closet too. How can I, but the judgment still needed to, that's Torah. Judgment and has to carry on. So I see that too, and here that these are still judgments that had to be carried out. Morey Dawood, I saw your hand up, sir. You want the floor?
Okay, just real briefly. Um, just want to make a comparison real quick. So when the president of the United States is about to leave office, right? If I'm not mistaken, he writes a letter to the incoming president, kind of telling him some things that went on, and just pretty much briefing him of what he's stepping into, right? So Melek Dawid, he of course was a warrior who kind of silenced all of our external problems. There was not an enemy of Israel who the Most High, through the hands of Melek Dawid, didn't put to rest. But when it came to the internal problems, Dawid couldn't handle all of that. So it's kind of like there are some things that, for instance, there are some things that this generation is going to take care of, and then there are going to be things on our list that we're not going to be able to take care of for whatever reason, that we're going to have to let the generation following us know that these are the things that you're going to need to deal with and be aware of as you continue to push everything forward from where we left it. And I yield.
Toda Morey. Zakein Yalad Yahu, can you hold your comment until we finish this next section? It's already 10 o'clock, and I don't want to keep the people too long, but I do want to hit this point.
Yeah, Kane, brother Kane.
Toda. So when we look at verses 13 through 25, Maury Samak had already touched on it a little bit, but when we read that, why do you think King Solomon took such an offense to this request and the way the request came to him? Just to get you, your thoughts on it. Would you have taken that as such an offense that your brother wants this particular woman to be his bride? What are your thoughts on that? And with, it's already at the 10 o'clock mark. So if you really, if I'll give you a couple of seconds to chime in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to the elders and the Morays. Adon Germanus, I see your hand. The floor is yours.
Shalom. Yeah, was it?
You're breaking up too, Adon. We didn't hear that first part. You were breaking up.
Yeah, I was saying that it was because he didn't directly come to him about the issue, but rather used his mother as an in-between, thinking that, the request gonna get through because it's her, thinking that he was gonna have a respected person. That's my guess.
Con. That's a good observation. Anybody else got a comment on that, an observation of what they see is going on here? Well, let me ask the question. Do you think it was told? Do you think it was good for Adoniah to request his father's personal maiden, the one that took care of him and comforted him till his death? Do you think that was a Tob request in that instance, in that aspect? I hope I didn't put everybody to sleep. All right. Zakein Yalajihu, the floor is yours, sir. I know you had a response from verses I think we was going through 5 through 9. I think you had your hand raised during that portion. If you're speaking, Zakane, we can't hear you. Can y'all hear me?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was still looking at verse 3. I think I may have missed you transitioning to 5, but I yield. I yield. You can go ahead and move on considering the hour. Go ahead, I yield, please.
Con. So the question was, and we got one response. Adon Germanus sees it that he was trying to kind of sneak in the door with his mom, use his mom to do his bidding. But the question that's on the floor for me, this is the question I have, honestly, is do you think it was Tob? There was nothing wrong with him asking for his father's maiden, the woman that took care of him, comforted him through his last days. Do you think it was Tob for Adoniah to ask for her to be his wife out of all women? Or you don't see anything wrong with that? That's the question. Koti Lily of Yah, floor is yours.
Shalom.
Shalom.
What I'm seeing is, being that he could not become king, he could not have what his father had, which he was supposedly the rightful heir of. He wanted the woman that his father had. He wanted something of his father's, being that he could not become king himself. So he knew Solomon was going to say no, so he put his mother up to it, which was not good. All the way around, it wasn't good to me. Well, the way I'm seeing it. I yield.
Khan, Toda for your response. Toda Rabah. I'm kind of seeing it the same way you see it, Koti. Shah Shamar, Adon, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't think he should have. I think he should have just found someone else. Personally, I wouldn't do that, even though he didn't know her, but it is a little too close. So I yield.
Khan. I thought I saw another hand. Koti Misha, floor is yours.
Okay, shalom. Just to highlight on what the other brothers and sisters were saying, I think that he would have been wise to just, as the brother just said, find another woman, because he had already been given a second chance by King Solomon to just, go on back home in peace and live life and deal honorably. So I think that it would have been in his best interest to just, go on about it.
Khan. Toda for the response. Toda Rabah for bringing that out. I think Koti Shakira was next. Koti Shakira, the floor is yours.
Yes. So me looking in, my perspective is maybe it's just me being merciful, but I know what he did was wrong, but my perspective, what did he deserve death for asking for, rather than, okay, what you did was inappropriate. I don't think that that's what you should have done. But my thing is, did he deserve death for asking for something that his father had?
Khan. Toda for that perspective. Toda. Imam Audrey, floor is yours.
Okay, I just wanted to say that even though this woman was not the late king's wife or concubine, she was specifically sought just for the king. So was this an attempt for him to claim the rights that his father had, the rights that King David had, even though he did not have a right to the throne? And this is in agreement with what everyone else has said, but this is just in addition to what they've said.
Toda, Imam.
And if I could, Adon, I'll go before, and I'll make my closing remarks now because I know it's getting very late. And then the other and elders can make their remarks. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of close with this question that you're at. And in regards to also, I'm in agreement with everyone else that they should have, that he shouldn't have did that. He should have just went on to mosey on when his brother gave him opportunity. That would have showed a lot about him. And just to go into, and I get what Shakira is saying too, because you look at it like that is a harsh punishment. But the thing is, it's kind of like the discernment. It was way more than on the surface of what it looked like. It was just simple request. Like, I was supposed to be the heir, but once you know that you are not the heir, you thought you were, but you weren't. Like, someone else was appointed by Yah to be that heir. So now everything belongs to him. So you're asking for his belongings, and who knows, like the will of Yah, how this woman was positioned, because I'm just going to share with y'all, like I said, some online don't know, but y'all know the situation with my Abba in home. And it's whenever you see a woman that definitely just really comforts and takes care of your Abba in his sickness and in his downtime, you know, as far as how my Isha is in home, that draws me to her even more. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, y'all know our walk in our life. Like, we've been, for years, been having, you know, had some, you know, some struggles with having to try to deal with that situation. And she's all in, you know what I'm saying? So you have to also be, from Solomon's point of view, this woman really cared for my father. This is a good woman. You know, she comforted my Abba when he was sick, when he was on his way out. This was his nurse. And wise men went and presented her to be. So there was already something with the presentation of this woman. And so what Solomon was able to do was, because of the counsel that his father has already given him, this is what treachery looks like. And so that's why sometimes, now we know in the Brit Kadashah said, let the wheat grow with the tares, so that, you know, you don't uproot some of the other possible wheat. The reason why it says that is there's sometimes that we as shepherds that do this, and we kind of know ruachs, we will sometimes know amongst us somebody that really ain't real. But because most people don't know that wheat and tares look exactly alike at a certain stage of their growth, some people will see the way we handle situations, and then they would take it as a negative, and then they'll look negative upon the Knesset or the assembly, not understanding that there is a negative ruach there that we know is not going anywhere to dealing with it. But because it said let the wheat grow with the tare, what we do is we let it grow, we monitor, and we try to keep everyone safe until the tare fully grows up to show the rest of the assembly of the Knesset that it's a tare. Then they want to know when leadership going to take care of that, and then that's when leadership take care of it, even though leadership has already known that this person was like this for a very long time. But we had to wait for others to be able to see it so they can identify what we've already identified, because the garment, the fringes, the Bible, the making service does not always show the intentions of the heart. It says that this word is sharper than any two-edged sword. So those with trained eyes sometimes can see the ruach that's upon someone, and when a person has a bad ruach on them. So his father had given him counsel already. This is what treachery looks like. If they're doing certain things, you need to handle that. So he's already given him his pardon, but for him to ask for her, that's why he said to his mother, so what, you want me to give him my kingdom also? Because do you not understand that this was a part of the king's house? And everyone knows that what goes from the king automatically now belongs to the next king, because it's a part of his house. So for him to ask for that and to come do it that way, that's sneaky, that's underhanded, that's it's just in the term that we use today, it's grimy. And not to go too much into detail, but some of the stuff that we've seen before, just as brothers and sisters in this walk, if there is someone that the elders and the imams give counsel to an instruction to do something a certain way, and this is what you need to do to be reestablished. We counseled in private, but you already know that everyone knows what you've done and know that you have not repented yet. But you go to everybody else trying to get someone to give you sympathy. That is because you're trying to plant seed. So what Shlomo was able to identify was he's trying to plant seed. So if he did this with my mother to ask for something, and I already made a vow to my mother to do it this way, but because my father has already given me instructions, I have to now understand this is treachery. This is somebody that was still planning to pull a coup on me. So even though on the natural, it looks like he shouldn't have lost his life, because I'm in agreement with Shakira, in the natural, like, man, that was a bit much. But already knowing he already tried to take the kingdom from me, that's the same spirit that's in him. He still did not really humble himself to come and ask that, because he still has the intentions of doing wickedness to me. And that's the reason why Solomon did it. And as you read the text, you see that the Most High did not disagree, because that was the ruach that was on the man. And it's even things, well, that's too much. Y'all know I get too excited and try to tie everything together. So I'm going to yield at that point. So I agree with what everyone else said, but I do see Shakira's point as well. But I just want to shine a light to why Solomon had to do that, because he had to make a stand, because those are the type things that David kept letting go, that kept making his house get worse and worse for not being dealt with straight up. Just like when the sons of Korah wanted to try to take the priesthood from Aaron and Moses, and then when it got 250 men. So David told him that in times past, when I didn't handle someone, they went and they got troops. When I didn't deal with Absalom, when I was supposed to deal with Absalom, he went to another nation, he got a whole bunch of troops, and he ran me about my kingdom. So if you don't deal with your brother, if you see this wickedness in him, he gonna run you out the kingdom. So Solomon already knows what this is. This is a brother that's still going to plot at some point to run me out of the kingdom. So it's not even that he asked for the woman, that's the small thing. It's the fact that he did it, it showed what was inside of him and what he would do later. So I got to go ahead and deal with him before he has time to build an army to run me and my family up out of the kingdom, which the Most High has established for me. So I'm going to yield at that point. I just think we can glean so much out of this, and just, and also we can understand that if there's things we've done, just understand that grace and mercy does not mean that there's not some type of repercussion. So we need to try to make sure that we're not cursing our house or passing anything down to our children that they have to deal with because of sin that we was in. We need to be trying to get it right so we can establish their house well, and they can start with a pretty good slate and not have to deal with the negativity that we've passed on to them through our generation. So Toda for filling in for me tonight, Adon. You did a great job, but now you can open the floor to all the other Maury's elders and brothers and sisters before we close. And I'm done for the night, sir. Toda Rabah.
Toda More, Toda for the edification. We're already at the 10:16 mark. So I think I'm gonna open it up to the elders, starting with the imams, if they have word, and then to the zakim. So imams, the floors, and if you're an elder and I don't recognize your name, just go ahead and raise your hand if you want the floor. Imam Audrey, the floor is yours.
I just wanted to say Shabbat Shalom, and this was really a Tov study. There's a lot in these chapters that we covered, and I'm sure we could have gone on, but it was a Tov study. You did an excellent job.
Toda, all praise to the Most High, Imam. Toda for the encouragement.
Shabbat Shalom is a Tov study, and I'm old-fashioned. The reason why I was quiet is so thunder and lightning here. Got a lot of storms, so that's why I was so quiet. It was a Tov lesson. I enjoyed it. Just like Imam said, there's a lot in this lesson, and we got to remember, keep the commandments that Yah has put before us.
God, Toda, Imam. And all right, Zakin, Elijah, you have any words, sir?
Shalom, brother, and Mr. Bakar. One other thing I gleaned just from the spirit today, just the thought that I went through my whole day focusing on, I don't want to do anything to offend the Father's name. It ties into the lesson in a big way, because that's what King David left for. To order your house and establish your house, not to offend the name, because the curse comes immediately. It may not manifest, but that don't mean that it's not immediately there. So just to encourage you, everyone, try to, if you want to glean something from what I said today and from what everybody else said tonight and add to you, go through your day and just have that presence of mind to remember, I don't want to do anything to offend your name today. So all of our behaviors are going to be in line with love, because the scripture says the greatest of these is love. And thank you, and I yield.
Toda for those words, Zake. Toda. And thanks for sharing throughout the discussion. And everybody, thanks everybody for their input and their perspective on the scripture. I think that's how we grow also, seeing different perspectives and then applying that to our diligent studies. So hallelujah, Toda for all the input. Morey, Dawood, do you have any words, sir? And then we'll go ahead and close out. I'll leave the site. Oh, well, I don't have the host tonight, but we can leave the site open if anybody want to comment after we close with Tefillah. But Morey, Dawood, the floor is yours now.
Hallelujah. I just say to Mayo lesson and leading of us tonight, Zaquane. This is kingdom business. That's just kingdom business. We are the generation of Dawid, which means that we are going to have to set things in order. We're going to have to unite the people, and we're going to have to walk before our Creator. And prayerfully, the next generation can be Shalomo, which has peace, and which are able to be the temple of the Creator instead of building the temple of the Creator. So with that, I say, Laila Tov, Shabbat Shalom, Toda Rabba again, Adon.
Toda Morey, Toda, good words, especially closing words. Those are good closing words. We are, we're supposed to be learning. We are that house of David still, and these studies, like you said, put them to work, not just a good story to read, but apply them, and like Morey Samak said, it's that discernment. When we read these scriptures, we're looking for the lesson, the warning or the instruction. So Toda Morey. Adon Jermaine, you in a position to pray us out, sir?
Yes.
Toda.
Toda Rabba, my Elohim. Thank you for this study. Thank you for these words. May these words reside within us so we can follow your laws, statutes, and commandments. I just want to say thank you for this Shabbat day. Thank you for providing for us throughout this week. Thank you for keeping us safe throughout this week. As we know, this world is changing every day, and we just love how you protect us throughout this week, as you always do. I just want to say I'm thankful for everything that you have given us, everything that we have, and all of our family members, my Elohim. If you continue to protect us and guide us and keep our faith strong. In your name we pray. Amen.
Aman. Toda for the prayer, Don. And just to remind everybody, Morey Samak, Most High Willing, will be online tomorrow for our Shabbat service. And I hope we all can make it, Most High Willing. So may the Most High protect and keep all of us. May the Most High protect and keep all of us. And I'll say, Laila Tov, Shabbat Shalom.
Laila Tov. Great job, Adon Toda, for filling in and for bringing forth the word of Yah. Hallelujah. And thank you for everybody that tuned in. We love you all. Mr. Y'all have a good night and rest well. May the Most High watch over, bless, and protect each of you.